Good morning everyone, you're welcome to the Irish Mammy channel. My name's Katrina if you're new here, and if you're not new here, you're welcome back. Today I have a lot of harvesting to do. I was supposed to get to it yesterday. The weather was a bit of a washout now, even though this is an indoor job. I just didn't fancy putting my nose outside the door yesterday. A bit of a fair weather gardener, I suppose you could call me. But I had a lot of inside work to do as well in the house. So getting out to it this morning. The sun is splitting the stones. Quite warm in here in the greenhouse today, which is lovely to see. I still have quite a few tomatoes left to ripen. Definitely getting on the last legs for the tomatoes ripening. Well, they will still go till the end of September, but after that, once the weather starts to cool down, they don't actually taste as nice, even though they do still ripen. So we're going to get on it today. I have quite a bit of harvesting to do. I'm going to take you around first and show you all that has to be harvested, and then we'll just get on with it. So the first plant here in the greenhouse, red pear tomatoes, quite a few of them ripening on the plant. Need to get them picked up now. Most of my cherry tomatoes, whatever I don't eat fresh, ends up in pasta sauce. A few gardener's delight here, or quite a few. I think there's 3 plants here altogether, so you can see I have quite a few ripening there. And again, I will keep some of these for fresh eating. But at the minute I want to get some pasta sauce made as well. So so that's 3 gardener's delight, 1 plant, 2 plants of sun gold, and you may remember in my garden tour I explained that these are one of the nicest tomatoes you'll ever grow, and they're the reason most tomato growers keep growing them year after year after year, because they're just absolutely delicious. Quite a few ripe ones there. They ripen to an orange colour, so there's quite a few hiding in the back there as well. Some of them may even be overripe, but if they're overripe, they're going to go into sauce, so they're fine. In at the back here, I have some nice big tomatoes. These are Marmont, absolutely lovely in a sandwich, and I'm going to keep some of these. I want to make BLTs at some stage for myself and the crew. But they can also go into sauces and be preserved, so I could be doing some of that as well. Yellow pear tomatoes, again, a good few of them coming on ripe, and of course I have my plants trimmed back right, so it's actually hard to see them, but there are some hidden in there behind all the foliage. And I have a mortgage lifter tomato in there. Doesn't seem to be very many of those ripe. Maybe 1 hiding in there in the back. Lots and lots of green ones though, but they will come on yet. And another favourite slicer tomato is this yellow Zoytka. I only see 1 maybe there, unless there's some hiding in behind this cucumber, which I don't think there is. So still a nice harvest to get on with. So that's where I'll start. I have a basket and I have bowls here all ready for harvesting. Outside here in the raised beds, I have plenty of French beans to be getting on with. I did pick these just over a week ago. I cleaned these plants and stored them in the fridge while we were away, and I actually just ate them the day after we came back, and they were delicious. So more to harvest. Probably going to eat them fresh as well. I don't think there's a huge pile. I've only about 6 or 7 plants in there, so I'm not going to be getting huge gluts of French beans. So really just for fresh eating. And then in here as well, I have my courgettes. If you can see it in there. Good few courgettes, 5 or 6 maybe green ones, and quite a few yellow ones. You would have seen these. You may have seen these in one of the tours. So I need to be getting on and harvesting those as well. I also have some leaves hiding in here. There's some Swiss chard growing there, and some Lala Rosa hiding in there as well. So since that's all the lettuce I have growing at the minute, I'm going to take a harvest from that as well.
And I was missing a clip here, so I'm just adding in now after the fact. This was the area that I refer to as the wild garden, or the field, mostly for perennial crops. The idea being that I can just leave them to fend for themselves. I try to do as little watering or as little work out here as possible. These are the globe artichokes gone over now, and I'll just introduce you to them first.
These are the globe artichokes. This is their second year as well. All of these beds are 2 years producing food now, but I do just let them go to flower. I do hope to harvest from them next year though, but the flowers themselves are absolutely gorgeous and the bees love them as well. A lovely architectural plant as well. I've tried growing these in the front garden. They're not doing quite as well in the front garden as they are out here, probably because the soil is so terrible at the back, or at the front rather, where here they have you know, slightly raised bed, so it's about, I think it's 9-inch high, and it's an 8x4 size bed, and I think I have 6 to 8 plants in it, so they've lots of room and lots of healthy compost to keep them well nourished, but again, dying off at this stage. That's really all. Oh, I have peas down here as well on a trellis. See if I can get you a good shot of those. Don't have much success in growing peas. I have quite a few pods on these. They're possibly gone too far. There's a lot of dried up pods as well, again because I'm not doing much watering or really much TLC at all out here. They've kind of been left to their own devices, so I might have enough for a dinner or two. With a crew of 5, peas don't go very far when you're growing them, so definitely it's really only a novelty. The kids like to pick at these when they're out playing in the garden, and sure, if that's all that they're grown for, it's still a win in my book. I have raspberries there behind. They've produced very well for me this year. Lots of new shoots coming out there. All those ones you can see protruding toward the front are all going to be next year's producing canes. I do have a lot more raspberry plants to put in. I would like to rework this bed. It's not working very well at the minute. Lots of weeds as well. But we'll see if that's something I get to this year, because it's quite a big undertaking to get this bed sorted out. So may get to this over the winter and I may not. We'll just see how it unfolds. And this here is my second bed of strawberries. So this is their second year as well. You may remember I have strawberries in my higher raised beds in the front of my greenhouse, and they were in their third year. I had no first year strawberries this year. I actually didn't have space to put them in, but I am going to take runners off the other crop in front of the greenhouse and get them rooted in and planted out next year. This bed is empty. I have harvested garlic from this at the beginning of July, and it has been left to its own devices since. Need to get those dockins out. They are huge mammoths of dockins, and I'm dreading trying to pull out those roots. A few more small weeds in it as well. Debating what to do with that this year. I had originally planned to put herbs, both culinary and medicinal herbs, into this bed. Still debating whether I'll go ahead with that or not. And then over on the far side here, I have 2 empty beds. I originally planted asparagus in this. I bought 10 asparagus crowns, and I had 2 crowns that had planted in pots for years. I put all into the ground, and all that actually grew was the 2 that I had in the pots. So I'm debating just maybe pulling them out and starting again next spring. 2 plants wouldn't be very much for 5 people. So I think I'll pull them out, grow in it over the winter. Possibly either my onions or my garlic will go in here, and then in that bed I'll put the other. So onions in one and garlic in the other. And that'll make use of them over the winter, and then start again here with asparagus in the spring, and let's hope I have better luck next time. So the two harvests out here I want to do today is clean up these peas, which I showed you there a minute ago. And then I want to harvest just a bucket of spuds. The spuds will stay in the ground until, well, actually last year I was harvesting potatoes the week of Christmas. So even with frost, the potatoes will still do okay in the ground. Because the tubers are underneath the soil for the most part, and these ones have a good insulation with weeds, the tubers will stay protected as long as there's not a really, really hard frost, which there isn't usually in our country, in our climate. It's usually after Christmas before that starts. So I'm not in a panic to harvest the potatoes. I just harvest enough to keep me going for a week or two. And I keep going on like that until it gets to crunch time when they have to come out of the ground. Quite a big job, 13 ridges of potatoes. I wouldn't like harvesting them all in one day or even 1 week, to be honest. I knew when I was putting them in the ground, I said to myself, it's easier planting these than it will be harvesting them. But I like to, well, I do say I'm a bit of a lazy gardener in some ways, so I'd be taking it handy and just harvesting a bucket at a time, or enough to do me for a week or maybe 2 weeks. I don't cook potatoes every day, certainly. Maybe 2, 3, maybe maximum 4 times a week is all we'd eat potatoes. So that's another job to get on with today. And of course, up at the top of the field here, I have my trusty chickens. I have 15 of them at the minute. 5 of them are older and not really producing, and 10 of them are new. This early summer they arrived as pullets, and they're starting to lay really well now, and they'll keep me in eggs all over the winter and all through next summer as well. They'll probably take a break next winter. Their first winter as pullets, they tend to lay through the winter, but after that they tend to slow down. The ones I bought this time around are more heritage varieties. The original 6 that I bought, one of which has died, were a specific breed for free range mass egg production, and they were bought as pullets as well. So this time, because I knew a little bit more about what I was doing, I decided to go for more heritage breeds, but they're still hybrids, I will add. They're hybrids of heritage breeds, and of course they lay colourful eggs, not just your regular brown egg, which I like as well. You may have noticed I'm a big fan of colour, and even the egg basket has to be colourful for me. So I have all shades of blue, green and white in the egg basket now. So back to the tomatoes. I'm going to get on with this and harvest. I'll put the camera on a time lapse and I'll show you what I've got at the end. Okay, so nice wee harvest there of cherry tomatoes. Like I said, some of them kept for fresh eating and some of them will be turned into pasta sauce. I have tomatoes given to me by a friend as well, and some harvested from the polytunnel. So I hope to get a nice big batch of pasta sauce made. And then this is the bigger tomatoes. Accidentally cut off some green ones. I'll just stick them in the windowsill and I think they will turn ripe yet. So some nice red ones there. They're the Marmond variety. Except that one, I think that's a pink ox heart. Oh, you can't see that. There you are. I think that's a pink ox heart. Not in the best of shape. And then the yellow is Oichka there. So they'll go for BLTs, maybe this evening or tomorrow. Next harvest is the green beans. So a nice little harvest there of French beans, definitely enough for a nice vegetable side dish with dinner. My favourite way to cook them is just sautéed with onions and garlic and of course butter. Butter makes everything nice. salt and pepper. Quite simple, quite a quick dish to make, and it's absolutely nothing like the frozen beans that you'll get in the freezer aisle in the shop. Definitely no comparison. The fresh beans are lovely and crunchy and crispy, and especially when they're sauteed and not overcooked. The ones you buy in the freezer in the shop really only just turn to mush, and I'd say most people have only ever got them boiled, which turns them even more mushier. Not really nice, although I personally don't mind them. But if you think you don't like green beans or French beans, I do urge you to give your own beans, to try and grow your own beans, and you'll definitely be converted. And that's the same with a lot of vegetables, tomatoes especially, but even brassicas, cabbages, cauliflower, broccoli, all those, all completely different when you grow them yourself. So next we're going to go to the courgettes, and then we're out to the field for peas and potatoes. Okay, I have the courgettes harvested there now. A nice little haul of courgettes. What I like to make most with courgettes is actually a courgette and cheese soda bread, and I often in the summertime make up several batches of that and have it frozen. And when I get sick of making the bread, I then grate up the courgette and store it in bags in the freezer as well. And I'm just using through the last of what I froze last summer at the minute, and I have it out defrosting to make courgette bread. Also forgot I was taking lettuce out of that bed as well. I had this Lala Rosa and these charred leaves growing in that bed along with the courgettes, and then it wasn't a whole pile, so I added in some coriander sprigs and some wild rocket, which I have growing in a different bed there. So I have enough to make a nice little salad there, and I'm also thinking now, because I have harvested some of the large tomatoes and I have coriander, I harvested a cucumber the other day, and I have jalapenos. I'm actually going to make pico de gallo, which I haven't made this year at all. I love to make it. It's like a fresh salsa with all of those ingredients that I've mentioned, and of course salt, black pepper, garlic, and you just serve it with maybe chicken fajitas. It's lovely with chicken fajitas, or even just grilled meat with flatbread or something like that. It's lovely as well. So that's a dish that I just forgot to make, and that can be a regular occurrence for me. That's what I have found as a gardener. In the beginning I didn't know a lot of what I needed to cook, or what I could cook with the ingredients that I was growing. And some people say you should grow what you like, but I would disagree with that and say you need to grow what grows well in your area, in your climate, and then you need to learn what dishes you can make that you like with what grows really well in your garden. And obviously we need a little bit of help here in Ireland with greenhouses or polytunnels to grow certain things like tomatoes, chilies, peppers, and things like that. So the more warmer climate vegetables, but we can still grow them, and it took a while for me to learn all the different things I could make. So obviously I knew I could make bologneses and a lot of Italian style dishes with tomatoes, curries as well. I would have known I could use tomatoes for curries. But you know, in the summertime you don't really want to make a lot of those, and that's when you have your tomatoes growing and ripening. So you do need to learn different ways of using up tomatoes. Now obviously there's a salad, but there's only so many salads you can eat, so you do need to come up with more inventive ideas for using up fresh tomatoes, because you don't belong getting sick of them when you have a glut. And the number one recommendation I have for anyone who's starting out growing is buy a cookbook, a really good cookbook. It is an investment, but it's well worth it. Buy one specifically which covers what you can grow in your garden, kitchen garden style. And some recommendations I have would be, of course, Darina Allen. GIY also have a good cookbook out as well, but both of those would be very much in tune with the seasons, and Avoca as well is another one. They have quite a number of books, one of them in particular that follows the seasons, which I found very useful. And now some of the recipes would have more high-end ingredients, but you know, when you become a confident cook, you know how to swap out those ingredients for different ones. And of course, I do have a background in cooking. I ran my own business for about 15 years, and I worked as a chef previous to that as well, and in my own restaurant. But really, you don't need to be a cook or a chef to come to terms with what you have grown in your garden and learn how to use those ingredients. And I think I have learned more as a home cook in how to cook economically, and cook with the cheaper ingredients, substituting different types of meat, cheaper cuts of meat, and even using things like beans and legumes in place of meat at times. And I'm by no means vegetarian or vegan, but you don't have to be eating lentils and legumes or anything. They are a really good replacement for meat, especially when you're trying to cook on a budget. So there's me off on a rant now. But just definitely I recommend, if you're growing food in your garden, now not straight away, but after you have had success growing in your garden, do invest in a cookbook to learn different ways of eating your vegetables. A lot of us were used to boiled veg when we were kids, and it may be the only way we know how to cook a lot of the vegetables that we can grow in the garden. But trust me when I say there is a world of recipes out there for cabbage that don't involve boiled cabbage with soda. And if that's something you have nightmares of from being a child, trust me when I say there are numerous recipes that will make cabbage taste nice, and all the other vegetables as well. So I know this might look like quite a lot of peas, but when you actually shell them, it's not a whole pile. I never get a good harvest of peas, certainly never get enough to put by enough for the winter, and I don't grow them with that expectation. Mostly they're snacks in the garden, and then secondly, I will use them in recipes that only need a very small amount of peas. So I might stick them into fried rice, for example, where you only really need a handful of peas. Another favourite of mine is to make pea hummus. So you only need a small amount of peas for that, and then you blend them with olive oil, a little bit of fresh mint from the garden, salt and pepper of course, and a little bit of olive oil. Did I say that already? And you just blend it up in the food processor, or use one of those little handheld stick blenders, and it can be used as a dip. You can make vegetable crisps to dip into it, which is something I like to do occasionally. Kale crisps are lovely, dipped in pea hummus, and you can also just use it as a spread on crackers or something like that, and that's the way the kids often eat it, just on crackers. I have quite a few dry peas. I'll show you what they look like on the plant. So you can see there the dried peas. Now they've got a bit mildewy, but not all of them are like that. So there's one there that's grand. And these don't go to waste either. They could be used for seeds. They could also be used still for cooking, and many of you might remember having marrowfat peas or something like that growing up, and that's just exactly what they are, dried peas. So I will pick these, dry them off. Well, I'll try to dry them naturally. If they're not drying quick enough, I will stick them in the dehydrator, and then they'll be stored for the winter. Now, I don't have a huge pile of them, so realistically I might have 2 or 3 dinners worth. But all I have to do is soak them, cook them with a little baking soda to soften them up, and they turn into mushy peas then. So I'm not a fan of wasting anything if possible, especially these dried peas. Well, the chickens might eat the dried peas, but I try to have them fit for human consumption first, and after that then if they're not fit for human consumption, then they go to the chickens. So that's the plan for those. I'm going to go through and pick all the dried ones now to keep them separate. And there are still flowers on the plant, and still some pods that just aren't developed enough. Not a lot, but a few. And I will soon be sowing peas for overwintering. Actually, I could probably still be in time to sow peas now to grow in the polytunnel over winter. I must just look into that. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I might start doing that. Another option for me would be growing mange too. They go a lot further, mange too or sugar snaps, because you can at least eat the whole pod. They're grown or bred specifically to have more tender pods that can be eaten, whereas these peas are definitely for shelling, because the pods get quite fibrous and tough. So I might, if I can't grow shelling peas, I will grow mange too or sugar snaps. I'll sow them actually now in the next, maybe today or over the next few days, to have them over the winter. Next up is the potatoes. Starting to run a bit out of energy now, but that's just the life of the gardener. Work till you drop. So let's go. So pretty nice harvest of dried peas, much more of the dried peas than there were fresh peas. I did find a few extra green ones that I'd missed, so they're stuck in there too. But I think the strategy will be to give these to the kids to shell, because they'll not eat them when they're dry, and then I'll shell the fresh ones. Okay, I'm not sure how well this actually shows on the camera. You can't even see where I've dug. I've actually dug up along that ridge there, but it's that covered in weeds still from the furrow. You still can't really see it. If there was a prize for the most awkward digger, I would certainly win that prize. Definitely not an agile gardener by any means. And like I say, I do have different plans for this area for next year. Slightly different, just something to keep the weeds down really. If any of you have any suggestions on easier ways to grow potatoes, I know there are other ways, but a lot of them won't work in our damp climate. But if you have any suggestions on how to make that easier, please feel free to comment down below. I have grown potatoes in raised beds before, and certainly that is easier. but because I want to produce so many potatoes, like I'm looking to feed the family year round, and I would like to be able to give some away to friends and family as well. So ridges seems the most plausible way, certainly the most highly productive. A lot of work needs to be done on this. I'm going to have to get a lot of the stones out of it, and I have to find a better way to keep the weeds down. So that was a bit of reality in the garden. I deliberately left this job to last because I knew it was going to be a messy one. I'm covered in muck. My feet are covered in muck. I see my face is covered in muck as well. There are easier ways to grow potatoes. But like I said, I left this job deliberately to last because I knew it would be the messiest. So thanks for coming along with me today when I was doing all my harvesting. If you have enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. It is helpful to me to have people subscribing, and it helps push out my videos better. If you can share the video on your various social media, that would be helpful as well. Definitely, I would appreciate if you can help me out by liking the video, subscribing, and if you want to get notified of when I put up new videos, which I'm hoping to put up at least one a week, possibly two, but if you hit the bell beside the subscription underneath the video, you will get notified when I put up a new video. So that's it, till I see you the next time in the next video. Thanks for watching. And I just realised I hadn't actually shown my potato harvest. So almost a full bucket. I think that is a 10-litre bucket. Definitely enough to do me for at least a week, probably a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. And I'll show you the whole entire harvest put together now at the end.